There's a clip I wanted to share here. This is Charlamagne on Fox News. He's on the show Gutfeld. I don't know if you definitely haven't watched it. No. But like,
I'm aware of its existence. I've seen some clips, and they were all bad.
Here's the thing about it that drives me crazy. Bill Maher had a show in the 1990s called Politically Incorrect. Mm-hmm. Since I'm a nerd, I watched some of that. Right?
Yeah.
They still have some episodes on YouTube from the 90s of Bill Maher being on Politically Incorrect. And Greg Gutfeld 100% ripped off every aspect of that show for this show.
Really?
Every aspect of it is just 1990s Bill Maher Politically Incorrect. Except he's somehow more smug and more annoying than even Bill Maher, which is like, that's got to go in the Guinness Book of World Records. If you're more smug and smarmy and annoying than Bill Maher. And so anyway, Charlamagne is actually going to, I give him credit here because he goes into the Lion's Den and he actually goes after them a little bit. They're talking about the Trump case, and this happens.
Let the record show, I totally agree with Robert De Niro. I am one of those people that suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. I think he is a threat to democracy.
Really?
I think that he led an attempted coup in this country. You know, he said he wanted to suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. At the least, that's just not a patriotic thing to say.
I don't believe that.
He absolutely said that on Truth Social.
I will look that up.
He did.
He wanted to suspend the Constitution?
He said we should suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. He said it on Truth Social, then said he didn't say it. So listen, I read Project 25. I'm one of those guys that's like, I don't know if he will necessarily leave. I hope he does, as you said.
I think even if I think this happens more with our presidents than I think, because now we can see everything, and Trump made everything so transparent because he was on TV every day and everyone was watching the camera.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet, and again, I'm not justifying the bad behavior of January 6th, but I'm willing to bet every president, when he got the note that he was not, when he was out, they were calling everybody like, can we fix this? Are we sure? Mm-hmm. And I think just given the fact that Biden's biggest claim to fame was he got to be Barack Obama's VP. And it was more of the Barack. I voted for Barack twice. I voted for Trump. Looks like it's going to be 3 times now. But the point is like it was the greatness of Barack that helped him over. Now that there's no more Barack, this is all Biden's presidency, and it's been embarrassing. So people are like, are we willing to go back to a poor sport who at least was getting our taxes right, or a wandering fool who's letting the worst part of the Democratic Party get their stuff past him because he doesn't have the...
Neither. We deserve better. The American people deserve better from both parties.
I'm not running, though. All right, we got to move on.
Right shoes.
There would be no women in your cabinet.
I'll have you know, I have lots of women in my cabinet.
You got a taste of how annoying Gutfeld is at the end there, with all like the forced laughter and the, I'm the wacky guy. I'm gonna say the wacky thing. Shut the fuck up, bro.
Back in the day, I did a lot of Fox News in my early days of cable newsdom before I made it to the big time over at MSNBC, and he had that show Red Eye, which is on like in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
A very strange show, but he was a lot less hardline right wing back then.
Right, I kind of remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, he still was right wing, but he was a little more like heterodox and a little like more interesting. And now, obviously, he's just read the writings on the wall that you got to be 100% Trump and the career comes first, and that's the way to climb the ladder. And it's obviously worked for him in terms of his Fox News career. But it's so telling that he didn't even know Trump said that thing about suspending the Constitution. Like, you work in news. Like, it's your whole job.
They're in a bubble.
It's your whole job to cover this.
They're in a
and
bubble.
you didn't know that? That's, to me, so revealing. And it is, he's in a bubble. He only hears the things that he wants to hear. He's got this very selective news diet, which is all like, total right-wing propaganda garbage. And that's all that penetrates.
Let me read everybody the exact quote. I pulled it up here. So he said this on Truth Social. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. So actually, to be specific here, what he called for was the termination of the Constitution. Not the suspension. Suspension almost implies like maybe we'll bring it back, right? Yeah. Termination is like, this shit is gonzo, dog. It's over. It's dunsies.
Well, I love the other dude, whoever that was, too, who was like, probably all presidents. It's just because Trump's so transparent that we know that he did January 6th. Like, probably all presidents did their own little mini version of January 6th just because they hide it better. So we just didn't know about it. It was like, No, this was different. This was this hasn't happened before, and almost trying to sell January 6th like it was a model of transparency.
Oh my
God!
God!
He tried to hijack the election in public view rather than behind the scenes. I mean, in fairness, Bush successfully hijacked the election using more sort of sophisticated mechanisms.
There's a PBS Frontline documentary that I watched on this that was really fascinating. It was kind of jarring because it opened up with an amazing compilation where you have every single presidential candidate when they lose. They go out there and they, they give their gracious speech and they're just like, look, we tried our best. The people had a different thing in mind. So I wholly endorse my opponent and accept that they won, and God bless them and God bless America and let's fix the country and let's move forward. Every single one says one or another iteration of that.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Trump at the end and he's like, this was rigged. This was disgusting. Frankly, we won this election. And it was just like a real shock to the system of like, no, this guy actually is different. He actually is different. Whereas the others, I agree that to one extent or another, they all have an authoritarian instinct or impulse that they apply in various different ways. Like, for example, George W. Bush, this is a great example. They did fucking torture. They did illegal spying. All that stuff is 100% correct. But with all the other candidates, if they lose, they go away. They just do.
Yeah.
It's not a hard call for them. It's like, this is the way our system works, and we're going to uphold the integrity of the system.
I do wish Hillary Clinton would go away a little more forcefully.
I do too, but they usually make a false equivalence with her too.
I know, and the
where
whole
they act
the
like
Russia thing.
Yeah, like, okay, so she was clearly emotionally not ready to be like, oh, fine, I lost. But she came out the next morning. And then I agree that after she conceded the election, handed it over to Trump, then she went on like a national whining tour where she blamed everything and everybody but herself. She blamed James Comey. She blamed
which continues
the
to
FBI.
This very day.
She blamed Russia. She blamed sexism. She blamed racism.
She blamed women because women abandoned her because she wasn't perfect.
Yeah, so I agree. She has a list of excuses, but the excuses are over the fact that she knows she lost the election.
Right.
He's saying I fucking won the election when he didn't.
There was no January 6th in the context of Hillary Clinton whining about the various.
There was wine moms
lost.
on Twitter. Like that was the extent of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and he also brought up Project 2025 there, which is probably the first, last, and only time you'll ever hear Project 2025 get referenced on Fox News.
Well,
because they want to hide that shit.
Yeah, and clearly, I mean, they were kind of foolish to have him on because I'm sure they love if there's someone who's like critical of Democrats, regardless of even if their criticism is from the left. They're like, oh, they're on our team. They hate Democrats too. And they want to use just like that piece.
Correct.
And of course, Charlemagne wasn't going to let him be like used for their propaganda purposes.
That's such a great point. They thought with that recent press about Charlemagne that he went on The View and they tried to arm twist him into endorsing Biden and he wouldn't do it.
Right.
And he criticized Biden. The idiots over at Fox News, to your point, they were like, yeah, he's with us because he was just shitting on Biden.
Right.
It's like, that's not actually how this works. You know, I shit on Biden every day for doing a fucking genocide, but I'll be damned if I go on your idiots' channels and, puff up Trump. I think he's just as bad, if not fucking worse. In fact, he's saying I'm going to be worse on the issue of Israel. He's saying Biden's pro-Hamas and pro-terrorist, not helping Israel enough, right? So they don't understand, like, the nuance and the complexity of it, and they don't understand that Charlemagne's a guy who's not going to fucking play ball. He's going to tell you what he thinks. He's in the lion's den here. He doesn't fucking like Trump.
Yeah.
He said I have Trump derangement syndrome. I wear it proudly. I do. He earned it. That's why I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's the part that they didn't understand is they thought he'd be more willing to be like used. They could just tee him up to trash Biden.
He can't do
without getting the other piece. So,
can't do it. Respect Charlamagne. Let's try to get him on Crystal Collins.
Yeah, I would
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
But we got to see. It's always like playing a game of telephone trying to get people on
We'll work
here.
on it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right. So next we have Jamal Bowman. Went on CNN. I'm trying desperately to pull up the freaking thing here. There we go. Jamal Bowman went on CNN, and he did an interview. By the way, credit to Jamal Bowman because he is, I know his district.
Yeah.
His district is a very diverse district. There's a lot of middle-class people, lower middle-class people, upper middle-class people in his district. It's actually the district I grew up in. There's a lot of Jewish voters in his district, and he's really gone out on a limb by being so aggressively critical of Netanyahu and the Israeli government and what they're doing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you 95% of politicians in his seat would not be as aggressive as he is because they'd be terrified of the AIPAC money.
99%. Yeah. He is definitely risking his seat to take a principled stand.
And AIPAC's going to throw the kitchen sink at him.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to tens of millions of dollars they're going to dump against him.
But, you know, I honestly think he is making the correct, even obviously it's a correct moral calculation, but I also think he's making the correct political calculation because he had said enough that was like somewhat potentially critical of Israel before they were going to come after him no matter what. I mean, AIPAC has made it clear. They spent millions of dollars against some dude who was incredibly pro-Israel because he had, I think, said something a little bit critical of Netanyahu one time. So I think he knew the target was on his back. And so he was like, I may as well just be honest about what I actually think here. You know, but certainly kudos to him for doing it because he definitely is risking his seat right now. And the polling that I've seen recently has him down in this race. I think he very likely could lose it.
Jeez. And now you see why people don't speak up. Because there's so much money on the other side and they can drive the polls whatever direction they want to drive them. And then you're fucked because you took a moral stand. And so a lot of these people just make peace with the evil of the system, right?
That's right.
So
or they just keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, or they just keep their mouth shut. That's right. Those are the less barbaric ones. They'll secretly tell you, this is fucked up, bro. You know? But the worst ones will be like, yay, war crimes, bomb toddlers. Yeah, fucking asshole. Hey, guys, we spoke to Norm Finkelstein this episode, and he did a really long and detailed explanation of what has now been proven to be a giant Israeli/IDF/Mossad blackmail ring, blackmail operation. And so if you want to learn about the specifics of that and stories that we know have been proven of blackmail by Israel in the recent past, definitely sign up on Substack for Crystal Kyle and friends. We get into that and much, much more.